Sure.
Eric Grizzard, Grizzard, Fire Chief for the City of Germantown.
Mine's the easiest one. Andy Sanders, ANDYSANDERS. I serve as the Assistant City Administrator.
All right, guys, thanks for gathering today on a short notice. As you're aware, the City of Germantown had a water emergency incident earlier today. Today, we want to bring you information and also information that can be shared with our residents and the greater community as well. As you can imagine, this is somewhat of an ongoing concern, and we're evaluating the situation, and we're also doing work to repair our water system as we speak. So we have speakers that will be here today. They're content area experts and professionals in their specific discipline, and they'll give you a little bit of an overview of what occurred today, and then we'll field some questions as well. City Administrator Jason Heisman will now address you.
Okay, so we'll begin with our Director of Public Works, Bo Mills, who will provide a brief summary of this afternoon's water emergency event. And then we'll have our Fire Chief, Chief Grizzard, who will follow and talk about the city's emergency response to the event. And then we'll conclude with Andy Sanders, the city's Assistant City Administrator over the Public Works and the Engineering Departments, who will conclude with what the city is in the process of doing to address the situation. Director Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Heisman. This morning about 9 o'clock, we started getting a few calls from residents about a funny smell in the water. They said it smelled sort of like fuel or kerosene, or even some said gasoline type smells. We immediately dispatched our crews out to those homes and took samples of that water and visited with our residents and been just able to find out as much as we could. We started immediately at our plants looking at our testing, doing some additional testing, and our water inside the plant was good. We kept getting perfect numbers on our plant numbers. So we just kind of kept monitoring. It tapered off a little around lunchtime, and we didn't get many calls, and we got a couple more late in the day today. But again, this afternoon, we did the same exercise we basically did this morning and got out and walked around our water treatment plant to see if we could find anything that was going on. And what we didn't see this morning, we saw this afternoon, and that was a fuel spill from a diesel engine from a generator that's having to run because we're without power at the Southern Avenue Water Treatment Plant, and we were on generator capacity. And so the fuel that was using to run that diesel engine had leaked out. It had migrated down a slope and across a grassy area and had actually gotten into the water reservoir where we store the water that we produce at finished grade. While it was in that water, it was being distributed out through the system. And that's what was giving us the calls that we had today. And so out of an abundance of caution and to be sure we did everything right, we went ahead and let our public know that the water was not going to be safe for anything other than toilet flushing until we'd have a chance to exercise our due diligence and find out exactly what the impacts are. We've called in several agencies to help us, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, also our federal emergency and state and county emergency folks are here helping us. I reached out to my fire chief and asked for him to bring the hazmat materials team in to assist us, and he did so. And so collectively together, we started formulating our plan. Chief Grizzard.
Good afternoon. Yes, early this afternoon, Mr. Mills contacted me and said that he was having an issue with a potential contamination of his water supply. So we dispatched our hazmat teams and took steps to make sure that the leaking generator that he mentioned stopped that leak and stopped the spread from moving any further. We also took steps to make sure that it wasn't spreading any further into the environment. And then we contacted the local Shelby County Emergency Management Agency just to get the process started if we were going to need any outside help so we could have those resources available. We were able to quickly stop the leak and make sure that there was no further spread. And then we also confirmed with TDEC about what the continuing plan was after that. It would be the Tennessee Department of Conservation. Sorry.
Andy Sanders, Assistant City Administrator. So what are we doing now to address this issue? We have reached out, as Director Mills and Chief Grizzard said, to our providers from the state and federal level. We met with them about possible solutions, and we all agreed upon a solution of pumping off the diesel fuel that leaked into the water reservoirs that serves our distribution system. So that's what we are currently doing, and we are monitoring that as we continue to move forward. We will be performing that throughout the evening, and then we will be testing our water to ensure that all of the fuel that leaked into the system is removed and properly cleaned, and then we will be able to reestablish our water system and provide that notification to the public.
So we're dealing with record heat indexes right now, and people are looking for water right now. What opportunities do they have to get that?
So we would ask that the water that we provide from the city of Germantown currently not be consumed, that you would look for water from other sources such as bottled water during this time period so that we can clean the system.
Any idea how long it'll take to clean the system?
We don't know currently. We're working on it. It will be cleaned and it will be tested before we send that notification.
Has the
People
city
who
looked
maybe
for,
drank
like,
water
water-
today and didn't,
One at a time, yes.
people who maybe drank water today before they got this notice, is there any concern for their health?
Sure. No, ma'am, we don't think they're in any danger. This was, again, out of an abundance of precaution. If they were to have any issues, I would encourage them to contact their healthcare provider. But it was such a low amount that we do not expect that they're going to have any problems.
Is there any bottled water available now from the city of Germantown for these residents?
That's something that we're in the process of working through. We're in the process of currently responding to the situation. So not city provided at this time.
How do you get the fuel out of the water?
So as you may know, diesel fuel floats on top of the water reservoir. So we're pumping it off the top, and we will continue to do so until it's thoroughly cleaned out of the system. And then we will test it to ensure that all diesel fuel has left the system before we allow for it to enter back in and give the notification to our residents that it's clean and ready to go.
Was this the whole city that was affected? Any estimate of the number of houses and businesses that got that water?
We're still trying to get that data currently, sir. Thank
Is
you.
this the only distribution site for water in Germantown, or is there more than one?
We have 2 water treatment plants, this one on the east side of our city on Southern Avenue plant. The other one, our Johnson Road Avenue plant, both produce the same amount of water, 2 million, approximately up to 12 million gallons a day that they can produce. Our Johnson Road plant is running as fast and furious as it can to produce water, and we're trying to limit the amount of water from the Southern Avenue plant.
We've seen in the past situations where you can boil your water and make it safe to consume. Would you advise people don't consume this water in any capacity, only drink bottled water at this point?
That is correct.
And what about the shower? Is it safe, contacting your skin and whatnot?
We would advise, out of abundance of caution, for you only use it for sanitary sewer purposes.
Do we know what the last tank inspection was?
So we have a contract with a tank inspection company, and they keep us in contact with the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation guidelines, so we're in compliance.
Have you ever had to deal with anything like this before?
No, sir.
No contaminants or anything in there?
No, sir.
Just so we get the timeline correct too, was this caused because of the severe thunderstorm that we got on Tuesday, the plant was power, then that was the reason why the generator?
That's correct. We were without power since the storm, and been running on generator ever since, and we have to fill that generator with fuel to keep it full, so.
You say you don't have much of an estimate for when the process will be done. Can you give us some kind of idea? Will it be 24 hours? Will it be a week? Will it be a month?
We simply do not know that at this time.
And we are working aggressively to resolve the issue. If it's going to be for a prolonged time, to address your question earlier regarding water, we'll work to make arrangements the best that we can for bottled water and drinking water. Okay?
How do you flush the fuel that's already in the lines out to the neighborhood?
So we use our fire hydrants that are at the end of our lines in our water distribution system. So you may have seen that throughout our city. We've been flushing fire hydrants in order to expel that water that had the diesel fuel leach into it out of the system.
Is the city expecting any EPA violations from this?
We have been working in lockstep with the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation, which is our state level of EPA. So any type of violations would come from any type of future events with them. But everything we've done thus far, they have full knowledge of, and we have full approval in how we are managing this issue.
Do y'all know how long the fuel was leaking into the water?
I'd say just this morning.
I know you said at this point you guys aren't sure how much of the city is affected. If someone didn't smell the fuel coming out of their water, at this point, should you just assume that you were affected, or if you didn't smell it, you can kind of move forward with life?
We don't really have enough data to answer that question at this time.
Do you know exactly how much fuel got into the water?
A small amount, approximately 100 gallons.
How many gallons is the total reservoir?
Around 4.2 million gallons,
Okay, so 100 gallons and around 4.2 million gallons?
approximately.
Okay.
This is all the data that we have thus far.
Up to the maximum.
That is the worst
maximum.
case
That's the
scenario.
worst case scenario, that amount.
Yes,
Okay. 100 gallons is worst case scenario.
correct.
We are erring on the side of caution.
Are there any plans in place to help prevent something like this from happening in the future?
As I said before, we are working our emergency operation plan that the city has in place, and we are working with TDEC on all of the emergency operations and how we move forward. So we are working the plans we have and the plans that are at every single level.
So main message tonight, do not drink the water, do not bathe with the water, don't wash clothes with the water, don't feed your pets with the water as well, just
Go to bed.
toilet, flush down the toilet. That's it.
That's correct. Thank you.
Is there any plan of reimbursement for the citizens that got to buy this bottled water?
We don't have any data for that at this time. Thank you.
Did the complaints that you guys got come from a certain area of the city, or were they all over the place?
They were pretty much on the east side of the city, but both the north quadrant and the south quadrant, but the east side of the city.
Can you go over again, I know you had mentioned before, we talked about water bottles. Do you have a plan of sorts to provide water bottles to people?
Yeah, it's too early in the process for us to be able to answer that question. Again, we're working as quickly as we can to resolve the issue, so it is not a prolonged period of time that we have to deal with that, but we have a process in place for us to be able to answer those questions, notify who we need to notify, to be able to arrange those details.
Is there any advice for businesses, stay open, close this time?
Well, as was mentioned earlier, as an abundance of caution, you should only use bottled water right now. And so until we're able to release more information to the community, and we will, when we feel comfortable with that information, we'll get it to the entire community through our different networks. So that's all we got for today. These guys have got to go back to work and manage this as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
And we will continue to push information out directly to your stations, your desks, so just stay tuned. If you'd like to give Jessica your specific contact information, so we can get it directly to you, we can do that as well. We want to make sure that everyone knows what we know as soon as we know it, so